All right, so the way we show our artists that we love them and we want to encourage them throughout the evening, we give claps and snaps. So I want to hear claps or snaps. Put them together as we bring up Abstracts.
I remember the day my shadow started acting out of character. It wasn't even trying to keep up with me, you know, it didn't even look like me, but I was so attracted to it because its presence was so familiar. And I couldn't escape the allure of its challenge to fight me. See, my shadow was upset and upstaged by the way I walked without it. And, you know, it had my heart and spirit living in 2 different time zones, and I was always 3 hours ahead, 3 hours behind. See, I couldn't keep up with the time, and man, my shadow started trying to take over me. And you know, I always tried to figure out how to beat it, but I couldn't at the time. And so I started drowning. And I started trying to come back from it, but the current was so rough and so serious that I couldn't. And then, you know, my shadow started trying to set me up. And when my shadow started setting the menu, I started showing up late to breakfast and dinner, but still hungry and needed to be fed. And when my shadow started setting the menu, there really wasn't anything that I wouldn't eat. And so I started eating any and everything. Any and everything that I could get a hold of. And it was killing my dreams, but I was trying to hold on to what seemed like it was God trying to tell me something. My shadow, man, it took over me. And you know, when I tried to get back to it, and I tried to pull it back to me, it was still trying to overpower me. And so it seems. And God tried to tell me the story. I was so gone and so torn up and broken from it that I couldn't even hear it. I couldn't even hear it. When I finally stepped in to myself, man, it was like I came into something completely different, and I felt like there was no way that I was going to be able to run from it, but I always felt like the devil's den would end up being my life's venue unless I completely bought into Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. Old Testament, but the church says it still rings true. So we won't be able to hold on and cling to the New Testament and claim that it's forgiving of us and our sexual indiscretions. Because, again, in Romans chapter 1, verse 26, it's titled with God's plan to save us from ourselves, supposedly cursed with degrading passions that made the Most High walk away. I used to feel like my very nature caused me to fail in acknowledgement of Him. So I fell from the knowledge that lifted me up through Him. I forgot the order of the Bible. I didn't know what verse happened when. Since Romans said He gave me over to a depraved mind because I wasn't proper. But damn, who is?
Oh.
See, being human forces us all to share a certain stark reality. It's accepting that we can never reach a certain greatness because it's beyond the rate of how unconditionally disciplined we can be. Our fragility is unsurprising. But without it, there is no story. The original versions of us couldn't stay away from a tree. And so the Valley of Armageddon came to be, and everyone from the Pharaohs, Germans, Brits, and Napoleons have fought in that valley, and someone might call it a tragedy, but the most common battlefield enduring the deepest pain is the human heart and mind. Begging the question, desperate for the question, am I really doing it God's way? See, I want to be less like that fallen angel and more like Peter. Because Peter was a great leader, but he was very human. He was screaming out that he saw the Messiah in Mark and Luke. But in Matthew, he was denying that he even knew Jesus. And when he came into John, Peter said, I ain't waiting on him. I'm going fishing. And that's exactly how I feel sometimes. Like, I'm going fishing without my watch. So I can claim daylight savings, deceive me into losing track of time, because I feel like going fishing ain't wrong. But am I breaking your rules? Maybe. But honestly, I don't think they're right about you damning me. And really, I doubt that you ever said death would be the answer for me and then relayed that to someone to translate into the book that would later be my guide to you. But honestly, when I'm alone, I think to myself, it could be true. And my shadow could be right. I mean, if I was bleeding Cain's blood, how would I know? And if I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't think it's a sin, then will I be forgiven for my mistakes then? Or maybe my whole issue and my whole plan should be to just stick to the sins that just bother him the least. Or maybe cling and clutch to my Bible without questioning what I read. And like most Christians, never ask why King James was the chosen one to translate what you straight zombie into. And never ask even why his name is on the title of what we hold so true. Remember, the first church failed at harmony because everyone was arguing about what was really inspired scripture. And we may never, ever get there. But I just needed the rip, tug of my heart and spirit to stop living with my shadow. So I put heaven in my mind, that when I die, the angels might find me in deep thought. And I put heaven in my mind to inspire my heart and spirit not to leave me, just so that I might, maybe, be ready when he comes for me.
Three, I want everybody in the room to say, speak your truth, abstract. 1, 2, 3. Speak your truth, abstract. You gotta do that. Y'all give another round of applause, please.